Hello everyone, in today's video I'll show you how to create this smooth scrolling animation with one single scroll using Velo APIs, formerly Corvid APIs. So without further ado, let's get started. So to get started, let's start by explaining the idea of this tutorial. In this tutorial, to scroll between these strips or slides, we need to configure some sort of anchors to determine where we are on the screen. So if we are here, we need to know that we are here. We need to let the code know that we are here. And if we are here, we need to let the code that we are here. So to do so, I'm going to add some anchors to the page. Menu and anchors. I'm going to add one on the top of each slide. I'm going to name it slide 1 top, and I need another one just before the ending of this strip or slide. I'm going to rename it to slide 1 leave, because we are leaving the strip. So after we added the anchors to the page, we need to give each one a unique ID so we can use them in our code. So to do so, let's first enable the development mode. Then I'm going to go to the first one and name it to slide 1 top. And this one I'm going to rename it to slide 1 leave, and this one slide 2 top, and slide 2 enter. This one slide 2 leave, leave, slide 2 leave. This one is slide 3 top, and this one is slide 3 enter, and lastly slide 3 leave. So leave, slide 3 leave, slide 3 enter, slide 3 top, slide 2 leave, and this one is slide 2 enter, slide 2 top, slide 1 leave, and slide 1 top. So now once we have the anchors ready on the layout, we need to give them a unique value to determine where we are on the screen. These anchors will determine where we are on the screen. So to do so, I'm going to create a variable called slides, which is an object, and we will add all the slides that you need on the page inside this object. I have 3 slides here, so I'm going to add 3. So slide 1 is an object, and this object will have some values to determine where we are on the screen. So slide 1 will have the value, the anchors of this slide. So the anchors of this slide, which is slide 1, is the top one and the leave one, right? So top This is the top anchors, and its value, we need to know if it's visible or if it's on the screen or not. So I'm going to add a value which is hidden, and I will set it to true. And this will be, I will apply this for all the anchors in all the slides. So now the leave anchors will have the same, and slide 2 have a top anchor and an enter anchor and a leave anchor. Here, this is slide 2, which is the earth on fire. We have this one, the top anchor and the enter anchor here, and this one, which is the leave anchor. Now to slide 3, we also have top, enter, and leave. So slide 3, top, enter, and leave. Once we have all the data that the anchors will have, we need to define the elements themselves, the anchors themselves, with the IDs, that we gave them. So I'm going to create another variable which I'm going to call elements, and this element will equal to an object as well, which have the slides in it, and slide 1 will have a attribute of scroll to, which we are going to define later. So right now it's null because we cannot select elements outside the onReady, and we need to add the top and leave of this slide as well. So the top element of slide 1 will be the ID of this anchor, but we cannot define it here. We are declaring this variable on the public scope so we can access the elements and the slides variables anywhere from this document. So top will equal to null as well, and leave is equal to null because it doesn't have value right now. And slide 2 will be somewhat similar. Scroll to is null right now, and we have top, which is null, and enter, which is null, and finally leave, which is also null. You will understand why I use the variables in this example later on this video. But basically, just to let you understand easily, when you read the code, instead of reading some elements thing, when you read it like this, elements and slide 1, slide 2, it will be much easier for you. So right now I'm going to just copy this one instead of retyping it again. Okay, now I'm going to define these elements up there. I'm going to define them. So let me just maximize it. I'm going to define these elements by creating a function that I will call it define elements. I'll call it define elements, and I'm going to create a function that will scroll the screen to a given element. So I'm going to create a const function. I'm going to call it goto, and we need to pass this function the slide or the strip number. So slide number will be passed as a parameter, and first of all we'll need to build the ID from that slide. So as you can see, let's just define the elements first. So elements dot slide one dot top will equal to the top anchors, which is slide one top, and elements dot slide one dot leave will equal to the leave anchor, which is slide one leave selector, and finally the scroll to, elements dot slide one dot scroll to. Here scroll to is when we call elements dot slide one dot scroll to function, we need to scroll to the given page. So to do so I'm going the elements dot slide one dot scroll to will equal to this function. So by passing go to the slide number, which is 1, go to 1. As you can see here, the function the slide number will be passed as a parameter to this function, and this function from the given slide number will determine the ID of the strip or the top anchors, which is the place that we want the page to scroll to. So the ID will be slide, then the slide number, which is above here, slide number and top. So any slide which has any top anchors, for example this one, or this one, or this one, we will have 3. So this ID will determine this function will determine the ID of the anchor that the function was called on, and first check if the ID as a selector exists. If it does exist, what we need to do is return a promise. We need to resolve that promise to scrolling to that slide, which is the ID as an element scrolled to, like this, ID dot scroll to. So this will scroll to the ID to the element that has the given ID. If the ID is invalid, we need to reject the promise so that the code doesn't continue. So when we call elements.slide1.scroll to, it will run this function, which is go to, by passing a parameter of 1, by passing the number 1 parameter as a parameter. Now let's define the other elements, the other anchors or slides. These elements are for slide 1. Now let's go to slide 2. Sorry. Now elements dot slide 2 dot top will equal to, of course, slide 2 top. Let me just finish defining all the elements here, and we will continue after that. So one note that I wanted to tell you, this line will call the function immediately. I don't want to call it immediately. We just want to assign the scroll to method to the goto function. So scroll to will equal to goto function. We are going to pass the slide parameter later on in the code, not right now. Okay, now after we define the values of all the elements, we need to call this function when the page is ready to actually define them. So we need to use the page onReady function to call this function and start define elements. Okay, now after that we need to actually write the code that will determine where we are on the screen. So remember these values. We will use them to determine where we are on the screen. To do so, we need to write a function to define all the event handlers. So let's start by, I'm going to call it define events. So the first thing I need to do is we need to use the on viewport enter and on viewport leave. So elements dot slide 1 dot top dot on viewport enter. We need to do the following. So now you can see why we defined an elements variable, because you can easily read this statement, which is the slide 1 element anchors the top anchors of slide 1 element. The top anchors of slide 1 elements, we are running the on viewport enter. So on viewport enter, what we need to do is set the hidden value of that anchor to false. So slides dot slide 1 dot top dot hidden, it needs to be equal to false. It needs to be equal to false, and we also need to write an on viewport leave as well on each anchor. On viewport leave. Why? Because when we go away from that element, we need to set its hidden value to true. That makes sense because we don't see it on the screen, so its hidden value must be true, not false. So slide 1 dot top dot hidden is equal to true. We will do this on all the anchors, but you will see that they are different from each other. So after, of course, this is the event. These are the events of slide 1. Slide 1 events. Now we have on slide 1 two anchors, which are the top one and the leave one. So elements, we need to add an on viewport enter on the leave anchor as well. On viewport enter. What we need to do is first of all change the anchor, the hidden value to true. Slides.slide1 dot leave dot hidden is false. Then we need to check if slide 2 is visible or not. If not, slides.slides2 dot top dot hidden. If it's not hidden, that mean, let me just show you. That mean if this anchors, when this anchor enters the viewport of the page, if this one is not visible, we need to scroll down to the second slide. Why we need to scroll to the second slide? How do you determine if we are scrolling up or down like this or down like this? If we are scrolling up like this and the anchor, which is this one, slide 1 dot viewport enter, on viewport, basically this one is visible, and since it's visible, that means we are scrolling up, not scrolling down, and that we need to scroll above and not scroll down. The same thing applies as well when we are scrolling down. When we are scrolling down and start seeing this anchor, if the top one is not hidden like this, and this one entered the viewport of the page, that means we are scrolling down and that we need to scroll to the second slide. So if the top anchor of slide 2 is hidden, we need to scroll to slide 1. If it's hidden, we need to scroll to slide 1. So elements, sorry, if it's not hidden, you see the exclamation mark here. That means whatever the value that comes from the hidden value, it will be the opposite. So if hidden is true, if hidden is false, sorry, and we introduce the not, which is the exclamation mark will do the opposite. So elements dot slide 1 dot scroll to. So scroll to is a function from here. Elements of slide 1 dot scroll to is equal to a function which is go to. So we need to call that function and pass it the parameter, the slide number as a parameter. And since this function is running on slide 1, the parameter needs to be 1. Okay, now we need to code the leave, the anchor's leave. So elements dot slide 1 dot leave, we need to code the on viewport leave, because we need to set its hidden value to true when we leave the anchor. So slides dot slide one dot leave dot hidden will need to equal to true, so it is hidden. Now to slide 2. Okay, on slide 2 we need to do the same on slide 2. First of all, we need to code the top anchor, the inter anchor, and the leave anchor. Let's start by the top one. All the top anchors are just changing, all the top anchors on viewport, leave, or enter. We use them to give another key points to determine where we are on the screen, to help us determine where we are on the screen. So all the top anchors they will not scroll to anything. They will not scroll to anything, just to change the hidden value of that anchor. So elements dot slide 2 dot top dot on viewport enter. We need to change the value. Sorry. Slides dot slide 2 dot top dot hidden. We need to set it to false because it's not hidden. If the anchor is visible on viewport, so it's not hidden. That's what we are doing here, and these will help us determine where we are on the page. So as well, top dot on viewport leave this time. Now we will change the value again to true. Now it's true. Okay, now here's the tricky part. Because this slide is in the middle, it is somewhat a little bit complicated. So let's start first by the on port leave on these anchors. Elements dot slide 2 dot leave dot enter dot on viewport leave. On viewport leave, we need to slide 2 dot enter dot hidden to, we need to set it to true. Now elements dot slide 2 dot enter dot on viewport enter. Here's the tricky one. Okay, here's the tricky one. We need to check if the leave anchor of slide 2 is hidden, and if the top anchor of slide 1 is hidden. If both of them are hidden, we need to scroll to the second anchor. Let me just explain to you. If the leave anchor of slide 2 is hidden and the top one is hidden as well, the top anchor of slide 1 is hidden. So if this one is hidden and this one is hidden, so like if we are scrolling down like this, when this viewport is when we enter this viewport like this, see this anchor entered the viewport of the page. So the top one here is invisible and the second one down below is invisible. That's why we need to scroll to the second slide. the opposite is when we scroll up and we enter this one, the enter anchor of slide 2. As you can see, it is visible here. So if the opposite, we need to scroll down, but we will not determine that by on this function. We will need to use the leave to scroll to the page. So right now let's write this code, which is we need to say if slide 2 leave is hidden, slide 2 leave is hidden, and slides the top anchor of slide 1 is hidden as well. Slides.slide1.top.hidden. If it's also hidden, now we need to scroll to the second slide. So elements.slide2.scroll2, and because it's slide 2, its index is 2. Of course, starting from 1, not from 0. So right now, everything seems to be working. Now let's see. We need to code the leave anchor of slide 2 as well. So let's start by elements.slide2.leave. Let's start by the on viewport leave. On viewport leave, because on viewport leave, what we're just doing is changing the hidden value to true. Slides.slide2.leave hidden is equal to true. And now let's code the on viewport enter. Slide2.leave on viewport enter. Now in this case, we are coding this one right now. We are coding this one. In this case, if slide 2, if the enter anchor of slide 2, which is this one, if the anchor of slide 2 is hidden, and the top anchor of slide 2 is hidden as well, when this anchor, which is the leave anchor of slide 2, entered the viewport, we need to check if the top anchor of slide 3, which is this one, is visible, while these two, which are the top anchor of slide 2 and the enter anchor of slide 2, if both of them are invisible and this one is visible, that means we are scrolling down and not up. If you are scrolling like this and this one is visible and the others are not, then we are scrolling up and we need to scroll to the second slide. So when this anchor, which is slide 2, which is the leave anchor of slide 2, when it entered the viewport like this, here we are scrolling up and the anchor entered the viewport. So the top anchor here is visible, as you can see, but of course this is the top anchor of slide 3. but the top anchor of slide 2 and the inter anchor of slide 2 are not visible. That means we are scrolling up, and we need to scroll to the second slide. So let's write that. If slide 2, if the inter anchor of slide 2 is hidden, so slides.slide2.inter.hidden, and the top one as well, slides.slide2.top.hidden, and the top anchor of slide 3 is not hidden. So not, this is the exclamation mark again, which means not. So slides.slide3.top.hidden. So again, if the hidden anchor, if the inter anchor of slide 2 is hidden and the top anchor of slide 2 is also hidden and the top anchor of slide 3 is not hidden, then we need to scroll to the second slide, which is elements.slide2.scroll2, and it is the second. Now we are done with the events handler of slide 2. Let's go to slide 3. Okay, so for slide 3, we need to add the viewport enter and viewport leave on the top anchor and the leave anchor, but these anchors, the top one and the leave one, will not determine whether we want to scroll or not. So they will be regular event handlers like these, just to change the hidden values. So let's start by the top one. Now the tricky part. Which is on viewport enter. When we enter the inter anchor of slide 3, what we need to do is the inter anchor. This is the inter anchor, slide 3 enter, this one. We need to check if the leave anchor of slide 3 is hidden, this one. If this one is hidden, when this one is available, when the inter anchor of slide 3 entered the viewport, the viewport of the page, and the leave one is not is hidden. Sorry, let me explain again. So when this anchor, which is the slide 3 enter anchor, the inter anchor of slide 3, which when it enters the viewport, if the like this, when it enters the viewport, if the slide 2 leave anchor is visible and this one is not, so if this one is hidden and the leave of the slide 2 is not, then we are scrolling down. And need to scroll to this slide. Let's write the code here. If slides.slide2.enter.hidden, if it's not hidden, and the leave anchor of slide 3 is hidden, slides dot slide 3 dot leave dot hidden. Does that make sense? So if this one is hidden and this one is not, when the top anchor, the enter anchor of slide 3 enters the viewport like this, and it enters the viewport. So we have this one, which is the leave anchor of slide 2. It's not hidden, and this one is hidden. So we are scrolling down and need to scroll to the third slide. But if this one appeared like this, if this one appeared and this one is not, so we need to scroll to the second. But we coded that with the help of this one on this function. We don't need to code the functionality twice on each anchor. This anchor will determine whether we want to scroll to the second page or to the below one, and this one will determine where we want to scroll. So this one will scroll to the second slide, and this one will scroll to the third slide, depending on the situation and how we use the code. So in this case, we need to scroll to slide 3. So elements dot slide 3 dot scroll to, which is 3 here, and that's it. You may notice that this will not work greatly on the preview. Oh, sorry, it's not working at all. Why? You may wonder why. And the reason is because we didn't call the define events function. So they are not defined, and now they are defined. Let's try. Elements slide 2 dot enter on viewport. Enter. It's not a function. Oh, sorry. It's written with the I. Okay, let's try now. Let's publish the page, the website, and see how that goes on the live site. So here's the page, and let's see how it works. You see? Just smooth scrolling animation with one single scroll. We can scroll to the second, the third, the second, the first. And that's it for our video. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you didn't like the video, you know what to do. But if you did, smash that like button, leave a comment on the video with new ideas and future suggestions, and don't forget to subscribe. If you have more time, check out our previous video about the conditional data filtering on websites using Velo code, formerly Corvid code. Explore our tutorials wishlist page, or maybe check out our community forum, which you should definitely join.